So the next topic is loading constants. Here, unlike our 8086 microprocessors or other controllers, we cannot move the operands directly to the destination registers. We had this flexibility in the other microprocessors and controllers where 32-bit of data can be directly moved into the registers, something like this, or the address can be directly moved. But this type of instructions are not supported by ARM. So we have to load the constant in a different method. That is, we have to make use of an instruction called as LDR. Uh, Using this instruct, and we have to use equal symbol. So whatever the data is there, this will be considered as an immediate value, and that will be moved on to R0. So this cannot be implemented using the move instruction. It has to be used, we have to make use of LDR instruction. Similarly, even the address as well, that has to be loaded into R0 using LDR instruction, and the equals operator should be used. This is a mechanism of moving the immediate data to the destination registers. So now, as said here, these are called as a pseudo instructions. The ARM instructions are 32 bits in size, and they obviously cannot specify a general 32-bit constant. As I said, since it's a 32-bit processor, you cannot directly move 32-bit of constant to the register. So this is an alternative mechanism to load the data. Let's go to the next topic, writing assembly code. Now here there is a simple code here, C code, finding out the squares of integer from 0 to 9. We are finding the squares of the numbers from starting from 0 to 9. So C code, all of you are familiar. Yeah, these are the header files. This is the prototype of a square function, and in the main function we are using a loop. We are declaring a variable called as I, and you're going to see here you're not finding any other variables other than I. You can write this program in different ways, but we are making use of only one variable. So let's see what we are doing. For I equals 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. So here, what we are doing, we are calling the square function. We are passing the argument I to a function called as square. So this square function will be substituted to the square function here. And this gets substituted, this I will be substituted to this I and return I into I. So 0 first, it will return 0. If you pass 1, it will return 1. If you pass 2, it will return 4. So 3 means it will return 9. So in this way, this particular function will be called for every number, and it is going to print the result in the main function. So throughout, you are making use of only one variable I. So this one you have to keep in mind. Now, let us optimize this using the assembly code. Means this function we can rewrite in the assembly code. So let's see how the assembly code will look. See, now only the square function we are replacing. Only the square function we are replacing. So this is the normal ARM programming code. So whatever is the whatever you have written after area, this is actually a code, actual program. It's read only. This you have seen in the lab programs. Export square. So square is the name of the function. Here, this is for our reference. This is a comment. This is for our reference. Now, square is it's a function written in assembly code. So what are we doing in the square function here? We are multiplying. So this we are making use of the variables I, but in our code, we will make use of a register, any register. So we will take the help of two registers. So we have to multiply. So mul instruction is used. R0, R0 and R1. So R1 is the destination, R0, these two are source. What are we trying to do? Let's see the comment. R1 equals R0 into R0. When once you pass a number 2, so 2 2s are 4, that will be stored in R1. So if R0 is holding 2, it gets multiplied with itself and the result is stored in R1. But if you see the C code, we are not making use of other variable. So it has to be put to the same variable. So what we will do, whatever the result 4, whatever the result 4 was there in R1, that we will move back to R0. So R1 contents is moved back to R0. So R0 will hold now 4. Now, after doing this, what are we doing in the C code? Return. So in assembly, how you're going to return, I discussed in the previous example. Link register will always hold the address of the next instruction after the function. So whenever you're invoking a function, the address of the next instruction will be present in the in the link register. So here square is a function, so but we are going to return it back to the square itself. So this when you write return, the control will come back to the square of this particular statement only, and then it will come back to the main function, and it is going to just print that square of a number. So how you're going to implement it in assembly code? The link register will give us the return address. That is the return address of the main function. That we are going to put it to PC. PC will always hold the address of the instruction. So this will make the control to move from the subroutine function to the main program, this particular instruction. Move PC, LR, it will return the control from the subroutine to the main function, and it will end. So this is how we can replace the square of the square function. We can replace the square function. So the export directive makes a symbol square available for external linking. So here we have used an assembler directive. In simple words, is a keyword. What it does, this makes the symbol square available for external linking. So other programs also, when it wants to execute the square function, it can get linked to it. Means it's a public function. This is a public function. So now let's go to the next topic. Profiling and cycle counting. So what is this profiling and cycle counting? The first stage of any optimization process is to identify the critical routines and measure their current performance. So how will you measure the performance of any routines, critical routines? So a profiler is a tool that measures the proportion of time or processing cycles spent in each subroutine. Means in a particular program, if there are 3 subroutines, it will find out the cycles, that is the clock cycle spent for each subroutine. That will be done by the profiler tool. So this profiler helps to identify most of the critical routines, and the cycle counter measures the number of cycles. Means the profiler tool will recognize the critical routines, and after identifying the critical routine, there is something called a cycle counter, which actually measures the number of cycles for each subroutine. So for example, we have a critical subroutine and it is taking 10 clock cycles. So let us optimize it. After optimization, if it is taking 5 clock cycles, then that is its performance. So definitely you can measure your success by using a cycle counter to benchmark a given subroutine before and after an optimization. As I said, before the optimization, you will find out how many clock cycles it is taking, and after the optimization, again, you're going to cross verify. If there is an improvement, that helps in performing better. The ARM simulator used by ADS1 debugger is called Armulator and provides profiling and cycle counting features. So there is a debugger called as a Armulator, and it provides both profiling and cycle counting features. The Armulator profiler works by sampling the program counter PC at regular intervals. How Armulator works? It makes use of PC. So wherever it comes across the function, it will increment a counter. So that's what it tells. The profiler identifies a function the PC points to. So the PC will be pointing the next addresses. As soon as the PC comes to the function, it will actually increment a counter. So with this, we'll get overall routines, the functions in a particular program. This is one approach. The another approach is to use a trace output of a simulator as a source of analysis. Means you're going for single step tracing, and you're making use of a simulator for analyzing the different modules. So these are the two ways of two features which is going to help for knowing the performance. So now let's go to the next topic, instruction scheduling. So here we'll see the summary of the clock cycles required for each operations. So if you see here, the ALU operations, so ALU like addition, subtractions, and logical operations, All these things are taking 1 clock cycles, arithmetic operations and logical operations. And LDM, that is the load multiple register, it usually takes 2 clock cycles. Now, next, load instruction that load 16-bit or 8-bit data such as LDR, BLDR, signed byte, higher byte. All these type of instructions will take 1 cycle. Branch instructions will take 3 cycles because there will be a context switching. An STM of a single value is exceptional, so that takes 2 cycles. Multiplying instructions mainly, it varies in the number of clock cycles depending on the value of the second operand in the product. So for multiply instruction, the clock cycle keeps varying based on the second operand. So these are some of the clock cycles, some of the operations and the clock cycles taken by them.